stories of Ikigai. Are you good at what you do? Do you love what you're doing? Are you serving a need? And do you feel rewarded? In this podcast, you'll hear how others discover their Ikigai with the hope that it'll help you discover yours. Hi, I'm Mika Domingo, and this is Stories of Ikigai. I'm excited to have on the show today my colleague, friend, and business coach, Alay Yajnik. Alay Yajnik is a law firm growth expert and the founder of Law Firm Success Group. He has run a 100 million business and built a $500 million business from the ground up. Alay's team is dedicated to helping busy lawyers across the country make more money, work fewer hours, and spend more time doing the things they love by running their law firms as businesses. Welcome to the show, Alay. How are you?
Mika, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be on the Ikigai podcast today.
Thank you. And some of my listeners know you and have worked with you, and some may not, at least not yet. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you discovered what you wanted to do.
Sure. So first off, just full disclosure, I don't know that I've discovered what I want to do. I really love what I do right now, and I don't know what's going to come next. We'll just have to see what happens. But the way I got into this business, working with small law firms, is really kind of a strange way of getting into it. So that maybe that might be interesting for your listeners, that you don't always have to have this passion that you just find and you pursue with single-minded abandon. Sometimes you kind of have to gravitate towards what you enjoy and things that you're good at and just kind of find your own path. And that's sort of something that I've done over the years. I spent about 17 years in Silicon Valley. And as you mentioned, I ran a $100 million business for Siemens Healthcare, which is like Siemens is like the GE of Germany. It's a really big conglomerate. And so that was fun. I learned a lot, but ultimately I didn't want to be part of a big corporate bureaucracy. So I left that and joined some medical device startups because that was my background, and learned a lot there too. Had a lot of fun, worked with several different companies. Ultimately, none of those startups were successful. And I realized in the process that working for venture capital and that whole culture just wasn't something that I was cut out to do. It's great for a lot of people, but just wasn't a good fit for me. And so I was trying to figure out what comes next. And I was evaluating what I'm good at, and I'm really only good at two things. One is building businesses, and the other is developing people. And so when I was looking around at other businesses, I heard about business coaching, and I thought, wow, I get to do that full time, and I get to do that with clients that I want to work with. I can choose my clients. That sounds really cool. Let me try that and see how it goes. And so I found a franchise called Focal Point and joined them. It's a terrific organization that's global, and started my coaching franchise. And that was about 9 years ago or so. And very quickly ended up working with small law firms. And what I realized is that a lot of these attorneys, they used to work at big law, or they could work at big law, but they want more for themselves than what big law has to offer. They're looking for good income, yes, but they also want flexibility. They want freedom. They want to be able to take some good vacation. They don't want to work crazy hours during the week, and they want to be able to pick and choose their clients. So really, I connect with them at a very deep level. A lot of what they want is what I want too. I'm fortunate that I have a background in business, but a lot of them don't. And so they end up leaving big law, hanging out their shingle, and then they realize that they're working really hard, but they're not making as much money. They don't have any flexibility. They're not able to take real vacations, and a lot of the things that they wanted to do when they started their firm, they haven't been able to do. And what we discovered as we work together, as I work with several law firms, is that a lot of that can be solved by running your law firm as a good business. And luckily, that's something that me and my team are well equipped to teach lawyers how to do. Because when you run a law firm like a really good business, income goes up, quality of life goes up, they have more flexibility, they work fewer hours during the week, they're able to take real vacations because now they have systems and a team and they have focus. So all of these things happen when you run a firm as a really good business. I love that. I love seeing that transformation in my clients. I love seeing the rewards that they get by doing those things. And I love being able to do that quickly without a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of overhead. We need to make a decision, we make a decision, and we move forward. So for that reason, I'm really enjoying the space, and I have no intentions at all of doing anything but this. But we'll see what happens and what's next.
Well, it's very clear to me that you help everybody succeed, you create win-win situations. And tell us a little bit more about what you enjoy most about coaching, what the format is like. I know I've had the pleasure of working with you, and I've really enjoyed doing that, and looking forward to, I know you had mentioned when we last spoke, you're planning on having these conferences, these virtual conferences. Tell us a little bit more
Yeah.
about what you enjoy about coaching and some of the programs you have coming up.
Sure, sure. Thank you for asking the question, Mika. What I love about coaching is I love the one-on-one coaching. I think when you and I were working together, it was more of a group setting. There was some one-on-one, but it was more of a group setting. Now we do all of our coaching one-on-one, and the reason for that is because every client's unique, every client's different. And by just working with a client one-on-one, it's kind of like working with a trainer at a gym, right? One-on-one is always going to be the best experience versus going to like a group class or something like that if you're looking for results. So for that reason, now everything we do is one-on-one. And then the frequency, depends. If it's once a month, twice a month, we just kind of figure that out depending on what they're interested in, and what their goals are. As far as other events, you mentioned the training class that I'm looking at doing in the fall. And that's going to be pretty much training. It's an interesting time of year. It's going to be probably October, coming up on the end of the year and the start of the next. And a lot of things have changed. A lot of things have changed since September, October of last year, and a lot of things have remained the same. And there's a lot of uncertainty. And so having the opportunity to just kind of sit down for a couple of hours and get out of the day-to-day, hectic scramble, and focus on a strategic plan that you as the owner of a firm can do on one page, right, in a couple of hours. And it gives you a destination that you can drive towards. It gives you a focal point for all of your activities for the next year, year and a half. And so that's what we're starting to do. It's a piece of content I've developed called the one-page strategic plan, and you've been through it, Mika. Most of our clients have been through it. In fact, if anyone's listening and they want to get access to that stuff for free, if you just go to my website, lawfirmsuccessgroup.com, there's a button there. Give me my business toolkit. Just click on that, and you can get the template, a training video, and even an example. And there's no charge for that.
That's excellent. Thank you for making that available. And you mentioned the page, the statement, the vision statement, and also I know from having worked with you, you have so many different tools that you use to help people succeed, that help with law firm growth. Can you share some other tools you found to have been helpful in helping other firms succeed?
Yeah, sure. Great question again. There are probably 3 or 4 of the tools and techniques that we have that we go back to with most of our clients. The one-page strategic plan is what we talked about already. One of the other things, and this is something that your listeners can actually take advantage of right now, is it's a time management tool that we use for law firm partners to figure out what their next move needs to be. Do they need to hire somebody? Do they need to spend more time marketing? Where does their time need to go, and what should their focus be? And the rule is called the 20-10-5 rule. And this is
I
something I
love
think we
that
also
one.
covered as well. Yeah, yeah. So if you're a transactional attorney and you're working, in a typical week, you want to be spending about 20 hours a week on client work, and then 10 hours a week on business development and marketing. That might seem high, but for a small law firm, and as a partner at that firm, that's what it takes. And then 5 hours on law firm administration. So if any of those numbers are off, it gives you a sign of what you might want to think about doing next. For example, if instead of billing 20 hours a week, you're billing 30, well, maybe it's time to hire somebody, right? Or do things differently in your firm. If you don't have enough clients and you're spending 5 hours a week on business development and marketing, you just need to up that, right? Get out there more. But if you're spending 20 hours a week on business development and marketing and not getting the results, you need to look at your biz dev and marketing, because it's not efficient and it's not effective. And of course, if you're spending, 10, 15, 20 hours a week on law firm administration instead of 5, then you have to maybe bring in some people or update some processes to bring that number down to a good number. If you add all those up, 20, 10, 5, adds up to about a 35-hour work week, which I think for most attorneys is not bad.
Actually, that's very good. 35 hours. I hear stories from colleagues who work 50 hours and even 60 hours, which I think, most of those people who work for big firms, that's
And
just
yeah,
outrageous. I don't
I
know how
totally
you
agree.
can balance, and you focus on making sure that business owners get to spend more time doing the things that they love by running their own firms. And how are you able to do that if you're working 50 hours, 60 hours a week, especially if you have children, right? And pets, of course.
Right.
Well, I have here a book, Staffing Up, The Attorney's Guide to Hiring Top Talent, which is your book, which, by the way, is a must for business owners. So why don't you tell us about this book, how you got started, and everything else,
Oh,
anything else you
thank
want
you,
to
Mika. I'm
share?
so glad you have it. And I see that it's being used a bit, which is really cool.
You can tell.
Yeah, I can tell. It makes me feel
My
really good when I see
highlights.
that. Thank you. Um, yeah, so I wrote this book in 2019, which teaches law firms how to hire. And it sounds weird. And I got asked this question a lot. Alay, you help law firms grow. Your focus is on marketing and business development. Why are you writing a book about hiring? You should be writing a book on business development and marketing. And what I told those people is that business development and marketing is not the issue. When I'm working with a client, that is going to get going right away. But what ends up happening is they end up running out of capacity. So very quickly, within a few months of working with a client, typically they need to hire, and they need to hire well, and they don't know how to do it. And I have not found another book for lawyers that teaches them how to go through the whole hiring process, from who to hire next to how to actually hire an employee, everything from finding the right person and what are the options there, to interviewing, to actually training them and ramping them up so that they're successful and so that they're profitable for the firm as quickly as possible. So that's why I wrote the book, and that was in 2019. And little did I know what was going to happen, because all of a sudden now, with the labor shortage, everyone I know, every law firm I know, every client I have are all hiring, and they're all hiring like gangbusters. So being good at hiring is a strategic skill for your firm that's going to serve you well, over time.
Absolutely. And this is such a useful tool. I keep going back to it. I even have a sample offer letter in this
Yeah,
book, which is very practical, very useful. So thank you for that. And also, you are a podcast host. And I would like you to share with our audience, with our listeners, a little bit about your podcast, what your purpose in doing that.
sure. Yeah. So, as we talked about, I help small law firm owners grow their firms basically faster and easier than they could on their own. But law firm growth is, it can be lonely for the law firm partner. And not everyone is ready or wants, a coaching engagement or to work with a coach or a consultant. But they still, need inspiration. They still need help. And so what I've done with the Lawyer Business Advantage podcast is I bring other successful attorneys like yourself, Mika. You're one of my first guests, which is awesome.
Thank you.
We bring attorneys, and we talk about their stories, what's worked well for them, what are some of the things that they've learned, what are some of the tips and tricks and hacks that have worked really well for them, so that other attorneys who can listen to the podcast, they can be inspired by what these attorneys have achieved, and they can pick up some really good ideas that they can then go back and put into action.
It's really
So
nice to have the library of information. I keep going back to some of your podcasts. I was just listening to the one with Michelle Ferber, and such an inspiring story.
yeah, and yours is equally inspiring. I have people calling me up saying, "Oh my gosh, I've learned so much from that episode with Mika when she talks about how she really handles relationships and cultivates new relationships, and how she built her whole firm on these amazing relationships." Yeah, attorneys do take things away from those podcasts, and I love hearing those anecdotes when someone comes up to me and says, "You know what my favorite episode was? It was the one with Mika, or it was the one with Michelle, or whoever it happens to be."
Thank you. It's so awesome, and I'm looking forward to the next ones. Do you have the podcasts every 2 weeks, or what's the the duration of
Yeah,
time?
the rhythm is right now is every week. So
Oh,
yeah,
fantastic.
so they come out on Thursdays and just in time for the weekend. So you can download that and listen to it in the car or in the gym or whatever it happens to be. And it's easy to find at lawyerbusinessadvantage.com.
Thank you. And what I find really interesting about what you said today is that you have not yet discovered what you wanted to do, even though we just went over some of the things you've been doing. I think it's so fascinating to hear that from you, that you're constantly looking at opportunities, you're learning, and you're a lifelong learner, right? It's really interesting. Do you want to tell our listeners why it's important to focus on what you love to do, because you mentioned that something that you focus on and help with the other firms and attorneys. Why is it important to do what you love, to find your purpose, and to constantly work on finding your purpose?
Yeah. I think maybe the best answer for that, Mika, is we may have other lives. I don't know, but I don't remember any of mine. So as far as I know, this is it. And I can't think of a better situation to be in. Look, I'm college educated in the United States. I'm fortunate to live in the state of California. I have a lot of advantages going for me that most of the world, 99% of the world's population doesn't have. I've been so blessed in my life to have what I have. If I don't go pursue my life's purpose and continually think about what it is that I'm here to do and how I can do better for others, not only is that a little bit of a waste, in my opinion, but it's a little bit ungrateful. I should be able to, you know, utilize these advantages that I've been given to the best way that I can possibly put them to use.
So thank you for sharing that. For those listeners who have not yet worked with you or haven't had a chance to at least have a conversation with you, how can they get a hold of you? Why don't you invite them and let them know how to go about doing that?
Sure. Yeah. If anyone wants to have a chat or is interested in being a guest on the podcast or anything like that, there's two ways you can reach me. One is just jump on my website, lawfirmsuccessgroup.com. There's a contact us. You can fill that out. Or if you want, just connect with me on LinkedIn. There are not very many Alay Yajniks out there, so I'm pretty easy to find. And the first name is spelled Alay.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Alay. It was so good. It's so good to talk to you. It's good to see you on Zoom.
Mika, it was great seeing you. I look forward to seeing you in person soon. And thank you so much for
Absolutely.
having me on the podcast today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Stories of Ikigai is brought to you by MS Domingo Law Group.